The trip was supposed to be routine. The KM Barcelona, a passenger ferry traveling between the Talaud Islands and the provincial capital, Manado, carried hundreds of people across the calm waters of North Sulawesi. Families, students, fishermen, just everyday travelers expecting another long ride under the blazing Indonesian sun. But routine turned into disaster in a single heartbeat.
Barcelona 5A, kebakaran di depan Pulau Talise. Mohon pihak yang monitor ini, kami mohon bantuan. Saat ini kapal kebakaran. Ya Allah, baru mau masuk Manado, sebagian solaleh kita. Allah, oh makasih om. Pulang kenapa sana kapal terbakar, dan puji Tuhan, Ner, Tante, Abi, Prisil, orang semua selamat.
Almost instantly, chaos spread. The Indonesian Navy, the Coast Guard, even local fishermen rushed to help, dragging survivors from the sea. Inflatable boats circled the burning wreck, pulling people out one by one, while others floated helplessly, clinging to debris. Some made it out alive, shaken and exhausted. Others didn't. Among the victims was a pregnant woman and a 2-month-old baby who was pulled from the waves, barely breathing, his tiny lungs full of water, but saved just in time. Authorities later confirmed at least 3 dead, several still missing, and over 500 rescued, far more than the ferry's manifest claimed. The numbers raised grim questions about overcrowding and safety, but those would come later. For now, only the image of the KM Barcelona burning against the horizon remained, a ship swallowed by flame, echoing with the cries of those who didn't make it. The cause of the fire is still unknown. Maybe mechanical failure, maybe negligence. All that's left are blackened scraps of metal, and survivors who will never forget the sound of fire hissing over the water, the voices lost in the smoke. In the end, the ferry never reached its destination. It became a floating reminder of how fragile life is when fire and water meet, and how survival can come down to seconds, to chance, and to courage. On September 12, 2025, an 83-year-old woman named Elena Mitchell was just heading out for her usual afternoon drive down Eyster Boulevard. It was around 12:30. She was on her way to Planet Fitness, part of her daily routine, something she'd done countless times. But that day, something went horribly wrong. Her car crossed the train tracks at the exact moment a freight train was coming through. The collision was violent. The train dragged her car hundreds of yards before grinding to a stop. When first responders arrived, it was already too late. Investigators found that everything at the crossing had been working exactly as designed. Flashing lights, warning bells, dual gates. By law, those barriers drop at least 20 seconds before a train arrives. And the footage confirmed it. The arm was fully down when her car slipped underneath. Some blamed Elena, saying she should have waited. Others pointed to her age. But her family fought back, saying she was healthy, alert, and more than capable behind the wheel. In the end, all it took was a few seconds, a tiny moment of impatience, to cost her everything. In Jefferson, Texas, there's a hotel where history doesn't rest easy. Built back in the 1850s, the Jefferson Palace Hotel has lived many lives. First a cotton warehouse, then a Prohibition-era speakeasy. But today, it's known for something else entirely. It's ghosts. Guests report strange encounters. A glowing woman in white gliding down the halls.
You can see them leaving right now. They're headed downstairs to investigate a different room. Well, I got a trigger for this event, so I open it up and look and notice, that they were walking off. Well, something caught my eye on the right side of their door as they were walking off, so I zoom into it, and you can see a little head, looks like down, let me zoom in, down at the bottom there. You can kind of see it pop up there, and it almost looks like it's on the outside of the door because the shadow kind of covers the wood on the outside of the door. Goes down and then pops back out and goes down and out. So I was like, okay, that's really weird. Zoom back out. It took about 20 seconds. That was 2:07:30. And of course they were downstairs investigating, so that was a pretty crazy clip we caught.
Shadowy men who fade into nothing. Messages appearing on fogged mirrors. The owner knows the place is alive with something unseen. He's even set up cameras around the building. And what they capture defies explanation. In one clip, just moments after two guests left their room, a dark figure drifted across their door, back and forth, before disappearing completely. A group of teenagers went camping one weekend, just a normal trip out in the woods. They parked their van, set up, and were relaxing when they noticed movement among the trees. Then they saw it, a dark, furry figure walking upright through the forest. It paused, then dropped to all fours and bolted straight toward them. Panic erupted. They ran for their lives, one of them managing to film the encounter through shaky hands. It was June 3rd, 2018, just another calm morning in Guatemala. The sky was clear, the air was still, and the streets near Volcán de Fuego, the volcano of fire, were quiet. That volcano, one of Central America's most active, had been puffing smoke and spitting ash for years, small explosions every 15 or 20 minutes. Locals barely noticed anymore. But that day, everything changed. Without warning, the volcano erupted with terrifying force. A rolling wave of fire, ash, and gas tore through nearby towns, faster than anyone could escape.
Miren, sí, le faltó bastante. Híjole. Pero aquí no llega. ¡Órale! ¡Tapen! ¡La tapen! ¡Dale! ¡Guapa! ¡Guapa! ¡Dale! ¡Vamos! ¡Dale! ¡A un lado! Aquí no llega, lo jala el otro puente. ¡Ja, tú! ¡Tú! ¡Ya los que agarró!
El número de los muertes.
Son 50 los que yo tengo desaparecidos. Aquí está toda la colonia, todas las familias enteras, todas están bajo tierra.
¿Usted estaba aquí cuando pasó?
Sí, yo estaba en el callejón, yo les alerté a varias personas y a ellos, pero ellos no quisieron irse. Mi hija lo que hizo con el niño, meterse en la casa de mi mamá y mire, aquí no hay nada. Toda mi familia está aquí sepultada.
¿Usted cree que el gobierno, el Conred, hizo lo suficiente para prevenir a la gente? Porque
no. Conred no nos dio alerta, él no nos avisó nada, él no dijo nada. ¿Qué es lo que está haciendo el gobierno? Limpiando la carretera.
By the time people realized what was happening, it was already too late. The saddest part? Many could have lived, if warnings had been heard or taken seriously. But Volcán de Fuego didn't care about alerts or governments. 6. The bridge collapse. It was just past 1 a.m. on March 25th, 2024. A massive container ship had just left Baltimore's Seagirt Marine Terminal, bound for Colombo, Sri Lanka. But it would never arrive. As the ship passed under the Francis Scott Key Bridge, one of the longest steel truss bridges in America, something went horribly wrong. The total electrical failure caused by a loose cable left the ship powerless. It drifted off course and slammed into one of the bridge's support columns. Within seconds, the entire central span of the bridge collapsed. 6 massive sections crashing into the dark water below. On the bridge that night were 8 construction workers filling potholes, just doing another night shift. 2 were rescued. 6 never came home. Their bodies weren't found for more than 6 weeks. Investigators later discovered that the ship's electrical system, built by Hyundai Heavy Industries, had a design flaw that made that kind of failure possible. And the bridge itself? Never properly assessed for risk. It was found to be 30 times more vulnerable than acceptable standards. The 911 call late one night in Pender County, North Carolina. A man was driving along Highway 210 near the Black River when he saw something strange. A figure stood by the roadside, a man covered in blood, streaks running down his body, just staring. The driver called 911, reporting the sighting, and that's when things went horribly wrong.
Center County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
I'm driving on 210. I just crossed the Black River, and I thought I saw a guy standing on the side of the road bleeding.
Okay, where are you at, sir?
I'm on 210. I just crossed the Black River. I'm heading towards 53 East. I just passed Patriots Watch.
Okay, so you're over near Morse Creek?
Yes.
Okay. And did you saw a man standing on the side of the road? What was that, sir?
That's not human! That's not human!
Sir, are you okay, sir?
There's something in the back of my truck!
Okay, what's in the road?
No, it's not in the road. It's in my truck. In the bed.
There's something in the bed of your truck?
Yes, ma'am. I just turned on my bed lights for my truck, and there's something in my bed.
Okay, sir, when you say something, what do you mean?
I just knocked it off of the bed of my truck and went over my roof.
Okay, what was it?
According to the CAD notes and the deputy reports, this thing jumped into the back of his pickup truck and began to actually beat on the top of the cab of his truck. You could actually hear something beating on the top of the truck. The caller stated that it was beating and scratching on the top of the cab of his truck. He actually stated that he was able to engage his bed light and was able to somewhat identify this object that was in the back of his truck. At some point, he was able to slam on his brakes, and the force of inertia actually threw this thing out over his hood and onto the highway, where this thing stood up in the roadway, made its way to the wood line, and disappeared in the woods.
In the middle of the call, there's a loud thump. Something hit his truck, hard. And remember, he was doing 60 miles an hour. Whatever it was, had caught up. It landed on the truck and began clawing at the roof. The man swerved, terrified, and somehow managed to shake it off. When he looked back, the creature was gone, vanished into the woods. Police searched the area but found nothing. No blood, no footprints, no sign of anyone. To this day, he still can't explain what happened. All he knows is, something was out there that night, and whatever it wasn't human. On May 5th, 2019, a Russian airliner, a Sukhoi Superjet 100, lifted off from Moscow's Sheremetyevo airport, heading north to Murmansk. It was a modern aircraft, sleek and new, a symbol of Russia's aviation comeback. At first, everything seemed fine. The plane climbed smoothly into the evening sky. But just minutes later, it flew straight into a storm. 6 minutes after takeoff, the jet began to fail. Systems flickered, alarms blared, and soon, the pilots were fighting to keep control. When it finally hit the runway for an emergency landing, sparks and flames erupted. Out of 78 people on board, 41 died. Not from the crash itself, but from fire, smoke, and chaos. Some passengers blocked exits trying to grab their luggage, slowing down the evacuation. Only the front doors could be used. The back was already consumed by flames. The aftermath raised brutal questions. Why didn't they dump fuel before landing? Why weren't firefighters ready when the distress signal went out? The captain, Denis Evdokimov, was eventually convicted of negligence. 6 years in prison and a small fine that could never match what was lost. Investigators blamed pilot error and poor